Evan, have you ever done Bloody Mary in the mirror?
Yeah.
The biggest.
You have? Wait,
180. Oh, wow.
You've done it.
Yeah, it was really scary. Nothing happened, but I was freaked out. I think I don't know how old, like 12 or 13.
Ooh,
With
he's
a couple
brave.
I was in junior high school. I remember that.
We're too scared to do it as adults.
Yeah, don't do it.
I tried to get Casey to do it a couple nights ago. He was freaked. He's like, I don't fuck with that shit.
You have children in the house.
What do I have to do?
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess, but I'm not scared of
ghosts.
ghosts. Casey is scared of ghosts.
I'm not scared of ghosts. I'm scared of the psychological.
I wanted to
effect
do
of
it just to
Mary
like bury the last few fears of my roommate.
Welcome to Only the Strongest, the only Capoeira podcast that will not be hospitalized because we didn't like to fart in front of each other.
What?
Yeah. I told you were not going to see this joke coming.
I can't understand. Wait, what?
I mean, yeah. Can you explain the joke?
Yeah, I want to share with you.
For our listeners who don't understand it, obviously.
Yeah, I want to share an article with you guys. This has nothing to do with Capoeira, except that it took place in Brazil. This is a couple weeks old at this point. Here's the headline of the article. Brazilian singer hospitalized after refusing to fart in front of boyfriend. Let me just read you the top. Yeah, let me just read you the top sentence. A Brazilian singer says she's no longer ashamed to let it rip after she was hospitalized with a case of, quote, trapped farts.
That's not even a medical condition.
Yes, it is.
Turns out
I've
it
been
is.
telling you about this, Les.
Oh my goodness. I've been telling you about this.
I'm keeping myself out of the hospital here.
I just ask you not to hotbox us while we record, you know?
Yep.
That's amazing.
This is a Brazilian singer named Poca, P-O-C-A-H. She looks basically like a
you're just outing her.
Kim Kardashian. And it says, Poca claims she had watched TikTok videos that told her to ignore any discomfort caused by the buildup of gas. However, the pain became so severe she decided to seek medical attention. I'm now fine, she reportedly said in a post, just an accumulation of trapped farts.
I'm glad she's doing better.
Yeah.
I wonder if in the hospital they just made her like kneel with her butt up, you know, trying to alleviate
What's the Brazilian phrase for
up and
accumulation of trapped farts? Because that would be an amazing Apolito.
We should name somebody that. You know, it's the faces they're making during the haunt of that.
Somebody with a fake butt, a giant butt.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. What's interesting is I sort of feel like this singer is not really in touch with her body, because she says, I was feeling kind of weird all throughout the day, but then it got really bad when I lay down in bed that night. I had this squeezing tightness around my heart. It was so uncomfortable. I would breathe in, and I wouldn't be able to breathe in all the way because it would feel like it was tightening around my heart. So,
just strangled by farts.
That's just anxiety, honey. You're so
herself.
stressed about holding these farts.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Jeez.
I guess
that was an amazing article. Where'd you even find an article like that?
Sarah found it actually and sent it to me. It's in some journal called Complex. I don't even know what it is, but
amazing.
Yeah, at least we learned that
sounds like a legit medical journal.
Yeah, Brazilians store farts around their hearts, apparently. We know that now.
Sorry, all you Kora sounds out there.
I love it.
Oh man, it would be a hilarious and ironic nickname if that was the reason you got the name Coração. You had too many farts building up or tightening around your heart.
Surely this is not our topic for today.
I'm glad you're hitting the really, really important points, Evan.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Got to keep us well-rounded.
This is a serious thing. She was in serious discomfort. Her heart barely working. She has to go to the hospital. So
Yeah.
Next time you teachers out there, chastise your students for farting in class. Keep this in mind.
Can you just imagine this psychological and emotional roller coaster she's riding when she finally releases all those farts? The joy, the shame, the humiliation, the relief. It's all there.
can you imagine on the other side of the building, like a doctor's trying to do a lumbar puncture and the room is shaking and he's like, I didn't know there was an earthquake today. What the hell?
You don't live on a fault line.
Yeah. It smells. Such a funny article. I love it.
Well, all right.
You're welcome,
we
listeners.
are.
How do we segue in from that?
We don't. Go ahead.
All right.
Evan.
No segue. I guess I should introduce us. We're long past the time where we should have been introduced, but we are Varal, Bonzinho, Azul. We're here actually to talk about Capoeira, not to talk about
Believe
farting.
it or not.
The healthful benefits of farting.
Yes.
Now, I thought we'd talk a little bit about an intro class that I taught a couple weeks ago, and in general, just sort of intro classes as a topic, because it's a delicate thing to do right, both on the teacher side and on the student side. And I've taught, I don't know how many intro classes, and it is always difficult.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the one up here, just give everyone a little bit of context. It was set up through the university, and it was open to the public, but it turned out that it was only university students who showed up. I think we had 8 or 9 people, not too many, but enough that
guys.
it was all girls and one guy who may not have identified as male. I'm not totally sure. He was androgynous. And I forget his name now. He had a interesting name.
Sorry, dude.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forget all your names in this intro class. Anyway, it was enough
Standard.
people that the room felt full
Evan,
enough.
0, students 1. All right.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, sometimes when you're just teaching 1 or 2 people and just the room feels flat and empty and you can't muster any energy, there's no ashe, and the whole thing is just a really painful experience. Fortunately, it was not that. And
Nice.
It was very informal. There was I didn't have to sign any paperwork. There was no waivers being signed. Foreshadowing. And I had the thought, like, wait, is there going to be some kind of legal trouble about this? And as we'll see, there was a brief moment where I thought something terrible was going to happen.
Nice.
But this was kind of an interesting, I don't know, just a weird situation. And I'm curious what you guys would do in this situation, and like what your goal would be going into the class, because I'm not currently teaching up here, nor am I affiliated with any studio or anything. And so I knew that there was not going to be a path into more classes after this intro class. Actually, I was talking to Mago, one of my former teachers, and I was just telling him I was a little bit apprehensive. And he was like, yes, so you have to keep it good enough that they don't kick you out right away, but not so good that they want to come back for more classes, right? Yeah, pretty much.
That's
Got to
pragmatic.
stay in between those two goalposts somehow. So I don't know. In that situation, you guys are going into an intro class like that. What sort of mindset do you put yourselves in?
That's tricky. I've been in that situation a couple times just with new students at all the studios I've taught at a lot in Boulder. And a lot of times it was like 1 or 2 on 1. So I've never done, I don't think, a full, like, more than like 3 or 4 people who have never done capoeira before in a class. I think it's hard to think about how you want to approach it, and I think it really depends on what their experience and like fitness level is to try and make them excited about it, and also like wanting to come back for more. I guess in this case you didn't want that, but in my experience, it's always been trying to get them, kind of hooked on the capoeira train. Yeah. Hooked on the nipple of capoeira.
On the teeth.
Reaching out, nuzzling in for it. They want more.
Yeah, that's a great plan.
We can go into some more details, but Azul, what do you got?
I guess attitude-wise, my approach is always the opposite of the pragmatic mago, where I'm trying to make their time as memorable and pleasurable as possible. So, like, I would always start off with deal with it.
I would love for somebody to put that on their flyer, like Brazilian capoeira, dance, fight, pleasure. Yes, it's got everything.
I'm making a shirt. Anyway, my whole thing would be to educate them so they know what they're gonna do, and then teach them it so that they do it, and then leave them with the exciting fun roda and leave them wanting more.
Yeah.
Sell them a leadership program.
Yeah. First you tell them what you're going to do, then you tell them what you're doing, and then you tell them what you did, and then you sell them the leadership program. That's exactly how I learned it from Mago. So. Yeah.
But I would be more excited rather than somber.
Yeah. I think it's always, I think it always takes a little bit to, you want to show them what they're kind of working towards, whether that's like yourself or having like another more advanced student like show a really cool looking sequence or something.
Yeah,
it helps a lot.
You have to show them. Yes.
Yeah, you have to bring up it can't. I think you can't just leave it as like simple basic movements, because you want them to kind of like dream of something.
But that's like the basic half-hour class where it's like 5-minute demo at the beginning so they know what they're gonna do, teach them for 15 minutes, bring them back for another roda, you're done. Anyway, so what did you do? Or what is your idea?
Well,
what did you do?
Let me ask you guys one more question before we get into that. Here's the other hang-up, is that I don't currently own any capoeira instruments. I have no instruments.
Did you okay. What's it called? Stomp routine it?
I brought a broom and an empty water barrel. Yes, I just hopped around rhythmically.
I had a really tight, AirPod cord. No, earbud cord.
I don't think that matters. I think you can and should do the roda most of the time, unless you have like almost 5 to 10 students there. You shouldn't do instruments anyway during the roda. So,
how long did you have for this? Just for awareness.
I had 2 hours. I had a full 2 hours.
Oh, full 2 hour class.
Yeah, it's like a whole workshop.
You can hit a lot there.
See, that changes everything.
Yeah,
that's much different.
Yeah, when I've done it, it's always been like a 30-minute. I would meet them before the intro class. In most cases.
That's a long time.
If they're bringing
just to talk to them.
Okay. Yeah. And about 15 minutes of that would be like active, and then 15 minutes would be kind of talking about capoeira and goals.
Yeah. I don't think that's a huge deal that you didn't have the instruments the first time.
All right. Because I had a little bit of not a crisis, but I had some thoughts about that of, how, like, it's not the most responsible thing to do to teach an intro class, but to give them no idea what the music is. So they're lacking the context for what capoeira really is. I can show them some movements. We could do a little mock roda with, a speaker and some capoeira music, but they don't understand that, there's a live orchestra and all that.
Yeah, but surely you're going to clap and sing with them during that class. So they're basically doing exactly what they would do anyway, because they can't learn the instruments in one class.
I figured once you get to be a grau professor, you just have a guy that can get you instruments. I got a puntedo guy. Yeah, Tito down the street. Yeah, I'll get a puntedo. He'll be here in an hour.
Yeah, that would be awesome if they hand you your chord for
and then
professor, but they also hand you like a secret list.
Butler?
A piece of paper with phone numbers on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you call this number, you need a bidding bow, 2:00 in the morning. This guy. Call
what hotline would that be?
Maybe that's a new capoeira app to get,
It's like
Man,
DoorDash.
like
for
an
best.
instrument sharing.
Here's your where to
app.
huddle at, but
Yeah.
also have a emergency instrument
Yeah.
finder. Yeah.
Like, yeah, Airbnb, but for your bidding bow. You can rent out your bidding
Why
bow.
can't you Uber? Why can't you Uber Eats a bidding bow yet? Come on. All right.
If only capoeira were more widespread, that might actually be a good idea. But like the 20 capoeira schools in the country, it's just like all you're going to do is lose money on that app. Anyway, so yeah, I had a full 2 hours. I had modest plans to teach them 2 kicks, passape or meia lua de French and meia lua de compasso, and a couple of dodges, and then au as an acrobatic. And we got through all of that. Obviously the ginga as well. I know that in some of us who the Sukao, formerly known as host of this podcast, has sometimes not taught the ginga, but I decided I was going to teach the ginga as well.
Wow.
And,
Such an edgelord.
yeah.
I was gonna say. Interesting.
Yeah, and we did, it was a bunch of partner drills and stuff down the floor and working in little mini, groups of 3s to simulate tiny rodas for themselves so they can learn how to buy the game and all of that, and just standard stuff. I did talk a lot, and I warned them ahead of time that there was going to be a lot of me just talking at them, and that they weren't necessarily going to have the context for understanding why things were the way they were. Like, this is why this dodge looks like this. This is why this kick, why you have this detail in meia lua de compasso, blah, blah, blah. But to just trust me and just do it that way.
Yeah.
And the actual workshop itself was a lot of fun. I had a great time. I haven't taught anything for a very long time, and I felt like I got to tap into a skill set that I got to use my area of expertise after not using it for a good 3 years. And that felt good. It felt like, cool, yeah, I haven't just been wasting my life. I acquired some skills, and I can use them.
Right.
But again, it did feel a little bit... Well, no, before I get into that, let me tell you guys about the small freak out moment, which was after we did meia lua de compasso, and I had them doing esquiva frontal against that because I felt like that's the safest place to be. You're as low as you can possibly get, basically, without lying flat on the floor like a worm. And yet... and I spent a long time talking about, you got to watch your partner with this one, and you got to make sure you're looking forward, blah, blah, blah. We did a bunch of drills. And then, of course, these 2 girls are working together, and one of them kicks the other one right in the nose, meia lua de compasso.
Oh, did she bleed?
No, and but there was a good few seconds there where I was waiting for the blood, and I was like, great, this is how I get sued, this is how I lose everything, like, I'm just,
Everything.
nobody signed a waiver, I'm not protected by anything, like, oh shit, I am fucked. But
awesome.
Fortunately, it was just like a graze, and it wasn't broken, there was no blood. But then later, someone's
So who did you send to the corner to do push-ups at that point? Was it the one who picked him or the one who didn't dodge?
Ooh.
I sent them to opposite corners. I told them the first one to stop doing push-ups has to leave.
That's the right answer right there.
Yeah. So then a little while later, another girl, her foot started bleeding, I think just from the floor, training barefoot. And so there's just like, it was bleeding a lot for a foot. There was just swaths of blood painted across the floor.
Jeez.
Shit. Now, bloodborne diseases and fucking...
What type of flooring was it?
It was wood. It was a dance floor.
Oh,
it was in like a nice dance/yoga room. It had mirrors and everything. Like, it was a nice spot.
Cool.
But, so then I had to clean up the blood and just had this moment of like, this was stupid, Every time I've taught an actual intro workshop or an intro class. I've always been in the capacity of a real instructor protected by a studio, protected by like liability laws, whatever. And this just was not that way. And I was like, oh shit, this is so bad. But then I remember they're college students. Like, they don't know any of that. They have no clue that they could sue or what. They have no clue. So they're just like, oh, okay. My foot's
you could tell them. You could probably tell them, hey, you bled on my floor. You owe me $50 now.
Yeah. Like, you haven't taught a true capoeira workshop until you've taught in just the kind of conditions you're explaining. Just craziness happening. Things that shouldn't.
In a cafeteria, yeah.
Yeah. Just.
Yeah.
I've taught in cafeteria many
times. It was a little bit. It was a little bit that. I've also taught in the cafeteria. Like, while people were eating lunch, there was
That's great.
It was the stupidest bullshit ever.
That's awesome.
I like that you brought in Meluju Compasso. I think that's like the signature capoeira move, and I think it's almost necessary for an intro class.
Yeah, when somebody asks them to teach, that's the only kick that is capoeira.
Because it's attainable for somebody coming off the street. It's a difficult one for some people. It's
recognizable as
but it's very recognizable. Yes, that's the thing. I think that's almost a necessity.
The only one that you would look at and go, oh, that's capoeira, besides a macaco.
Yeah.
For anything on the
Thank you. That was exactly my thought process. Yeah. It's just, and this is the signature kick. We got to do this.
Yeah.
And, you got 2 hours, so it's like, I have plenty of time to build them up to mail to a...
Right.
Yeah. To wear down their foot skin and make them bleed. Plenty of time.
If I ever had a beginner new student that was like kind of grasping it more, I would try to incorporate Hole in a way as well. Usually Esquiva frontal, switch the feet, negativa Hole.
That's a negativa. And negativa
is
so confusing for so many beginners. I would not even dare touch a negativa in an intro.
That's usually like the stretch goal at the end, and you can show them how to do it.
Yeah. I mean, some people get it no problem, and then some are just the rest of the class trying to decide which foot is their left foot.
I've found, and I wasn't sure exactly who was going to show up. I figured, if it's a bunch of teenagers, that they can probably do negativa no problem. But if anyone from the regular town shows up, and maybe they're a little older, negativa might prove really difficult. So I steered clear from that. We did do Hole as a lead into doing an au. It's like we started with just regular Hole across the floor, no dodging or anything, and then eventually worked up to the au. And everyone did fine with that. They were having a good time. The nice thing about teaching college kids is that I don't know, they're enthusiastic. They're sort of like, at least this particular group, they were the stereotype of like the young, naive, bright-eyed college student who doesn't even know better. Like they get kicked in the nose and they're like, I'm just having a great time. Like my foot's bleeding all over the place. I got kicked in the face. Like, oh, this is great. Like, cool.
That is exactly my experience teaching in Boulder too. The issue with college students is that they're like the most like transient people around, and they'll just never commit to anything. And they're also pretty broke.
Hey, I'd like to be the counter argument here, because I started capoeira in college. Although, to be fair, I'd show up like once every 3 months. So,
like, we had a lot of like people that would come the first time, and they'd be super excited about it. Never hear from them again. You talk to them and be like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I got really into rock climbing last week, so
I changed my major. It's a new schedule." Yep.
Yeah, for sure. And I initially, I did look into starting some kind of school club or like regular classes at the university, but just with COVID and everything, it was such a pain in the ass to try to get everything sorted out. And because I'm not a student there was extra hoops to jump through, and it just kind of fell through. So here was the interesting thing for me, the strange twist that I wasn't expecting, which is that I had a really good time teaching the class. Like I said, I got to use some skills that I have and feel good about it. And then I was prepared to tell people like, hey, I'm sorry, if you're interested in doing more of this, I don't know how to help you. There's no more.
I just taught you everything.
You're good. Plug our podcast.
I know.
I thought
Tell us you at least did that much.
I know. I thought about writing it on the mirrors, like, oh, you guys could just look at the logo of Only the Strongest Podcast for 2 hours.
So let it seep into your brain.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that I was prepared to have that conversation with people, but I also kind of felt like, again, yeah, these are college students, whatever, just they've got everything else going on in their lives. They, exactly like you said, like they could fall in love with tap dance next week and completely forget about capoeira, so it'll be fine. I don't need to worry about this. But then actually the response was really positive, and I had a lot of people ask, oh, so you do classes here in town, can I sign up, that kind of thing. And I felt bad telling him, no, I'm sorry, I don't. And I actually don't really have any plans to teach, even though this went well. I don't think I want to teach regularly. And it like wrecked me psychologically for the next week. I was in such a bad mood for the following week because I felt like, I don't have a lot of capoeira in my life right now. And then I went and got some. I got 2 hours of capoeira in my life, and I had a great time. And then I just don't have any more coming after that. And I also had to tell these people, I'm sorry, I don't have anything else for you. Like, I don't know, look at YouTube or try and find a group in 3 years when you move out of here and go to some other town.
When he directs them to straight to YouTube, go figure it out, kid.
Yeah, and it felt so shitty, and I felt bad telling these students this. I felt bad for myself. I felt like I should like open a studio or something so that I can do capoeira regularly. But then I remembered all of the stuff that comes along with opening the studio, and was like, well, no, I don't want to do that. So it was a strange experience. I'm just curious if you guys, like, how you would protect yourselves psychologically if you had been in this position. If you had this 2-hour workshop to actually teach, like, a fair amount of capoeira, but then there's going to be nothing after that. Do you think that would bother either of you?
Yeah, I think it would. If it didn't have another outlet or a continuation, and I did feel like the students really grasped it well and wanted to continue. So I don't know if I have a good answer other than just like theorizing.
No, that would bother me in the sense that it's the same conundrum. Like every time I'm around capoeira, I go, man, maybe I should open a studio because you miss so much about, what you used to do. And you stating, it really hit me earlier when you said, oh my gosh, I got a chance to use my area of expertise. And like, I really thought about that. And I was like, yeah, if 10, 15 years of this sport, teaching this sport doesn't give you that and then give you that feeling, yeah, I don't know. It was very poignant how you stated it. So I related to that. And then equally frustrating going, I know how much work it would take to sustain this for them or for me, and just hitting that crossroads and being really like frustrated. I don't know. It's conflicting.
Yeah, you're in an interesting stage when you kind of know how the sausage is made and you know what the issues are with and like the commitment issues like with running a studio and everything that goes along with it. And I feel like a lot of people don't have that like hindsight when they start out. And they just like kind of go ham into it.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, and then they learn it along.
You're right.
So that's an interesting perspective to have on it, honestly.
It was difficult.
Yeah.
I wonder how many other instructors had the same issue since COVID, maybe stopped teaching and now have that same conflict of like, oh, do I go back to this? Or now I've found this other thing to do with my spare time, or... I wonder how many more studios had to shut down and just they didn't decide to reopen.
Yeah, and students for that matter, especially if you had been in Capoeira. I feel like if you were brand new, or if you had been in for a while, say 4 or 5 years at least, if you're brand new and then your studio goes away, then it's sort of like, it's like you meet somebody, you have this extremely tumultuous, passionate relationship for like 3 days, and then they move out of the country unexpectedly.
You just had a Capoeira one night.
What stand. Could have been,
Congratulations.
You just had the one afternoon stand right there.
Yep.
Your afternoon intro class.
Yeah,
but
or
you caught feelings.
Obviously, if you're a student and if you're kind of a higher up, more experienced student, then I imagine you have that same sort of feeling of like, I've invested a lot of time, I've developed a lot of skills that not other people have. There just aren't that many adults in the world who are good at doing 7 different kinds of cartwheels while somebody else is throwing kicks at them. It's just not a common thing. And then, when you're left in a Capoeira vacuum, a Capoeira desert, then I don't know, it's like a part of you goes quiet at that point. Something that had been alive, that you had been using and flexing and doing well with, all of a sudden you just gotta kind of contain it and sit on it, and it's an uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So any students out there in that situation, I feel for you, man. I was in such a shitty mood the following week. I felt bad about being in a bad mood because Sarah, my girlfriend, had to kind of put up with it, and she helped me out with the workshop. She has some capoeira experience. She was invaluable in there, to have somebody else to demonstrate the sequences with. And then after the workshop, it was like, she was like, man, that went so well. And I was like, man, fuck capoeira. Fuck all of this. Fuck that workshop. It's just like such a grumpy ass about it.
Yeah. No, I see that for sure. I don't know if there's any way around it, because you put on your no-feeling armor going into it. That would they wouldn't care about capoeira, basically. But that would also mean you'd kind of be a shittier teacher because you wouldn't be enthusiastic about what you're talking about.
Maybe you just go with...
So you can't go in with that mindset.
Yeah.
And
I'm just trying to think of solutions here. Maybe you go for the most, unprofessional, that's the wrong word for it. Uncommittal, non-committal, capoeira teaching ever. You just elusively post or send out an email to those students and then put it on a website somewhere that you teach in this one park that's gigantic once a month. Just be there, and if they find you, they find you.
There you go. No pressure.
Yeah, I did think about that. I thought about I don't know, maybe we'll just run another one of these little workshops in a park somewhere when the weather gets a little nicer. And,
if they wanted to keep...
But then I just feel like, am I just setting myself up to feel this way again? I'm going to have an hour class in the park, and then I'm going to feel like shit afterwards.
Life is pain, and pain is beauty. And if you want to experience the beauty of life, you experience the pain, and it's bittersweet.
The pain of running a studio. So eventually, after a certain number of these classes, you're going to be like, fine, I'll rent some studio space, or be more official about it.
Yeah.
Commit. Because your students, you'll feel like you're letting your students who you remember the names of now, you're letting them down. I think it also matters that you can't even remember a single student's name that you're letting down right now.
Yeah. See? No worries.
Can I remember any of their names? I can remember 2 of their names.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. The problem is they're all, aside from this one guy, they were all women, so it's all female names. But then they're all not, classic old white people names like Jane or Kate or something. They're all newer generation weird names that I don't know how to store in my brain. It's just my name is...
File not found.
Exactly. My name's Strawberry.
She liked strawberries?
How do you spell that?
That would be a really easy name to remember.
I know. That one.
I would not forget a girl named Strawberry.
I kind of like that. That's kind of cute.
Well, yeah, there you go. Feel free to take that name.
This is maybe a big roundabout back to the workshop. And I meant to ask it earlier. How did you incorporate like Portuguese and using the language in the class, or was it more oriented towards beginners? And what's your thoughts on that, Blue?
I did
for a beginner
Like,
class. Do you run the class in? Do you like use Portuguese like commands and things like that in the class so they get used to it, like to use the different language?
Go ahead,
I did, yeah, and
Okay.
I gave them a little bit of a long talk before we started doing any movements, where I said, you know, there's sort of three big pillars in capoeira: the movements, the music, and the language. And we're not going to have a lot of the music today, and we're not going to do a lot of the language, but we are going to do some. So you guys have to be prepared to hear a little bit of Portuguese. All of the movement names are going to be in Portuguese, and there are some phrases that are really common in classes that show up in Portuguese over and over, and I'm going to use those more out of habit than anything else, but I'll always explain what they mean. And so, yeah, like I gave them, you know, the correct, proper movement names in Portuguese, but then like I would count in Portuguese. I would tell them like, okay, we're going to go, you know, we're going left, we're going right. You're going to, like I talked about, you know, buying the game. This is called Compro Jogo, and you're going to do this. And then we had a little lesson at the very end about Volta ao Mundo and what that meant. So they got a smattering of Capoeira Portuguese, and I honestly couldn't tell if it was good or bad. No one seemed confused.
Yeah.
No one seemed like, oh, sick, I finally get to learn some Brazilian Portuguese.
That's what I came for.
Yeah, that's about what I would throw into an intro class as well, like the basic commands, you know, counting and some movement names and things explaining. But okay, cool. Would you agree, Celeste?
Yeah, and I tried to give him some context as well about, you know, Capoeira developed during the slave trade in Brazil and blah, blah, blah. Like, I gave them that spiel at the beginning so that they would have some context. The interesting thing is that I asked them how many people had seen Capoeira before, and nobody raised their hand. So I was like, you guys all came to an intro class, and you have no clue.
You didn't even YouTube it once before you showed up?
Who are these people? Yeah.
Yeah, I asked them, I was like, I don't mean live. I just mean like, on YouTube, have you seen Capoeira? Have you seen it in a movie?
That's
anything?
insane.
How?
Nobody.
How do you show
and I
up
was
to a
like,
class
all right, you
without
guys are
Googling
brave.
it? I would be like, if my friend invited me
Did
there,
these
like,
guys
what
sign
are we
up to
doing?
it themselves, or were they like signed up for like detention or something? Wait, Evan, is this Only the Strong?
Was this community service hours fulfilled? Did you sign papers at the end? Stamp everybody's...
Yeah. It was something like that.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, now I understand why those police were standing at the door for the whole 2 hours. That didn't make sense until now.
Yep. It's all coming together. Well, all in all, it sounds like you enjoyed
Yeah, I feel like you
your
should.
experience.
I just gotta, you know, be the voice of reason here and tell you to get up and start teaching something.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like that's gonna answer all your problems and all your woes.
I think it's going to answer a lot of the current problems I have, but it's going to cause me a lot of new problems that I don't want to deal with.
Oh, yeah, man. That's just like having a kid. It's the same thing.
I also don't want to do that. Like, nothing about this situation.
Who
sounds
says simple is better?
Yeah, I guess that's true. And I mean, sometimes I think there is some inherent value to just let me cause myself some new problems,
So-
because
You learn something
solving
new.
the same old problems is boring.
This-
but
this-
I still like running regular classes is such a commitment.
The solution is obvious. You're at a campus. You only do semester portions for people, and you get to take a break until next year, whatever you want to do. It's very non-committal, but it's a little bit committal, once a week for 3 months or whatever.
You said
That's like the perfect amount, and then everybody knows it ends after that 3 months. And you
Well,
move
that would be
on.
like running a club, though, and you'd have to go through all the. university.
No,
paperwork.
but I mean,
Yeah.
he could create like seasons or,
True.
like how the pumpkin spice latte comes in season.
Evan, you haven't
Here.
thought about
Capoeira.
and you,
Capoeira comes into season.
it's capoeira season, boys.
That's
Uh,
exactly.
It's Ashe season. You said you weren't a student at the university, but you could become faculty. You're a professor already. You could just, hand them your paperwork, tell them, get your guy down the street to get you on the
SJs
faculty.
I mean, there are plenty of people that do
Yeah.
that. Like, just your credential
taught at
is enough
university.
for them to hire you on as like an adjunct faculty because of your expertise in like this one thing. So there's potential. Adjunct.
Yeah, I hadn't
did
really
that for a
considered
while.
that might be a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's useful. I teamed up at UVU and was adjunct faculty for a year teaching Capoeira, which they got PE credit for. So, and it was through because I knew the teacher of the Portuguese department, and so she helped like run some of the paperwork with me and get everything like sorted to add that class.
Yeah.
There's ways, and I think that's your solution because then you're off the hook, man. It's 3 months in and you're good. Just let it all go.
It may pay fairly well too. Who knows?
Yes, tens of dollars.
That's,
$10.
that's a pretty good idea. I'm kind of taken with that idea. Yeah, I will look into this.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Welcome.
Well, thanks for sticking around for a podcast that was kind of overly Varal focused today. I appreciate it. If you out there would like to get in touch with us,
I was like, does he mean us sticking around?
Yeah.
Or the audience?
Yeah. I almost left.
Yeah,
I know. I almost left halfway through, but I stuck around. I'm professional.
thanks, Bonesy. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you, the listener,
If anybody made it to this point in the podcast,
Write us. Tell us.
write
Tell
us,
you're out there.
tell us about how much of a relief it was when you got rid of all of your trapped parts. You can find us at onlythestrongestpodcast at Gmail. And we've had a little more engagement with the podcast recently, and that's been great. So thank you, those of you who've been listening and writing us emails and posting stuff in the Capoeira subreddit.
You guys are all great.
All right. Thank you. Join us next time. Ashe.
Ashe.
Or ciao. Well, how do we end this? Ciao.
Ashe.
Yeah.
Ciao.